How is it going, guys, and welcome to the Olufemi channel. We're a group of teachers that want to shore up your video production skills in as little time as possible. Hey guys, did you know that Apple Music is now allowing animated album artwork? Well, I'm going to let one of our newest channel teachers, Chris Maisano, teach you how to create really dope animated album artwork. Chris Maisano is a good friend and an extremely talented motion graphics artist from my second home, Australia. All right, Chris, the floor is yours.
Well, hey guys, my name is Chris Maisano and I'm here to talk to you about bringing your Photoshop files to life using After Effects. This is what we'll be creating today from scratch in Photoshop, and what we'll do is we'll bring all the files over to After Effects and start animating, and you'll get something that looks a little like this. Looks pretty great. Let's get started and jump right into Photoshop. All right, here we are in Photoshop and here's our file. So let's look at the dimensions. I've created this at 1080 by 1080 pixels. And so what we want to do is, first thing is we'll just create some rulers around our file. This will just allow us to see what the dimensions of the file actually are. And so we'll just drag these to the edge. And then we'll open up our canvas and just make it a little wider because we want to create these spinning pieces of paper. And so what I'll do is I'll make it 2000 by 2000. That'll just give us a nice bit of space so we can really draw out the paper, and as it's rotating you won't see any of the edges. First thing we want to do is draw out our layers of paper. So we'll create a new layer over here. We'll name it paper 1, and we'll grab the brush tool. And let's just have a look at our brush settings. So we've got 100% hardness, and let's make it 120 pixels. Just the standard brush, doesn't have to be anything fancy. What I've got here is all the colors that I've used here, but you can use any color you want. So with the first one selected, I'm going to turn the rulers off, start drawing these out. Now, just keep in mind, it does not have to be perfect. I think the less perfect, the better, and the more realistic it'll look, and the cooler it'll look when we start animating. Now that I've got that drawn out, that looks about right. I'll get the fill tool, fill this in, and you'll notice that some of the edges are white because of the brush that we use. So we'll just go back to the brush, draw over the top, and just make sure that these are filled in nicely. There we go, don't want to miss anything. And that's our first bit of paper done. Then we'll start a new layer. Make sure it's underneath because it's the bottom layer, paper 2. Select our next color and again, start drawing.
Guys, we're going to pause for a short ad. So you're a Premiere Pro video editor, you gotta check out this transition pack that the team has made just for you. These transitions are meant to give your high-paced edits just a tad bit of extra oomph. They are easily tweakable. They play very light in your timeline, and they're just a ton of fun to mess around with. These 100 transitions require no installing, no plugins, and work perfectly in the latest edition of Premiere Pro. And check this out, with every purchase, I'll throw in the entire Olufemi Creative Pack absolutely for free. This includes 3 additional transition packs: the Box Lens Transition Pack, the Camera Snapping Effects Pack, and the Identity Transitions Pack. In addition to that, it also includes 3 of my Light Leaks packs. There's the Bloom Light Leaks pack, the Light Opal Light Leaks pack, and of course the Sea Glass Light Leaks pack. The Olufemi Creative Pack is valued at over $119 alone, and again, you get it for free when you purchase the Track Matte Transitions Pack today. Every single pack that you're about to download comes with an unlimited license that allows you to use all the transitions and all the effects in as many videos as you want, forever. So what are you waiting for? It's time to take a leap, try these out, and tell me what you think. It's time to get back to the video.
So you'll see I'm just trying to get the rough shape. It, again, doesn't have to be perfect. We're just drawing around just like that. We'll turn off this top layer so we can see the edge. We'll fill it. Again, we'll just paint in these edges. Looking good so far. And we're on to our next layer. And we'll just keep going until we've got all of the paper drawn out. Okay, now that we've drawn out all of our layers, let's start turning them all on. in our layers panel. And here we have our amazing piece of art. It's coming together and it looks great. So the next step is to create the texture and the depth for each of these pieces of art. Now, what I've done is I've got a nice little piece of paper texture from Texture Fabric. So I'm just gonna drop that in. Texture Fabric is a great resource and textures are free, so they look awesome. I'm gonna drop that in. I'm just gonna bring the levels up a little bit. So bring the darks up, bring the lights up, just so it's got a bit of contrast, and put that on top. Now, what we wanna do is we wanna put this same texture in between each one of these layers and create a clipping mask. So we'll just duplicate this, bring it down, and just keep duplicating it until we've got one in between each layer. Okay, now that we have our texture layer in between each of our paper layers, I'm just going to select every single one of them and adjust the blending options to be multiply, just so we can see through them. So select all of these and go multiply. And what I'm gonna do with this top one is I'm going to double click on it so I can bring up the layer style. And we wanna add that little outer glow or drop shadow feel to each of these paper layers. So I'm gonna go outer glow, and yeah, that looks about right settings wise. I think maybe we'll just bring down the opacity a little bit. So I've got it set to multiply. I've got it set to, let's make it 30, 5, and 50, just so it's consistent if you want to keep the same settings as me, or you can have a play, it's totally up to you. Press OK and copy this layer style and just paste it on each one of these layers. So a quick way to do that is to select all of the paper layers all the way down to the bottom here, right click and say paste layer style. And that'll just put it on every single layer that we have selected. So you can see it's starting to come together, but it's very dark in the center. Now, the reason we added multiply and put one in between each of these layers is because we want to add a clipping mask. So if we right click on each of these, say clipping mask, it'll just affect the layer below. And that's exactly what we want to do. Okay, now it's looking really good. We've got our texture on each layer. You can see the texture and the fibers coming through on the paper. It's got its nice drop shadow, so it is looking great. Now, the next thing to do to make this the easiest to export is to group each of these paper layers. So I select the texture, select the paper, press Command G or Control G if you're on a PC, paper 1. And we're just gonna do this for each group of papers, textures, and here we go. Okay, there we have it. Our paper textures are now grouped, and we can basically turn off any one if we like, and it'll take it away. So now the quickest way to export these into PNGs is to select each of these groups, and that's why we group them in the first place. Go Layer, Export As, and Photoshop will bring up this dialog box. What we want to do is make sure that each of them are set to PNG. So if I select them all and go PNG up here, which they're already PNGs, you can start seeing them appear here, and then go Export. I'll just export them to this folder. It'll basically go through and make them all their own individual PNG with transparency. And there we have it. We're ready to go over to After Effects and bring this to life. We have all of our layers exported. It's as simple as putting it all together. So let's jump right in. Okay, we now have After Effects open, which you should be familiar with. We've got all of our paper exported. So let's just drop all of those in. And the first thing we want to do is we want to create a composition that our paper can sit in. Now, if we go back to our paper here, we'll notice that it is 2000 by 2000 pixels wide. So let's make sure that our composition is 2000 by 2000. I think 15 seconds is fine in terms of composition length. Frame rate is 25. Let's name this paper 1 and drop our first piece of paper in. And what we want to do is rotate each one individually. So we're going to press R to bring up rotation down the bottom here. Make sure we're at the start of our timeline. Press rotation and go all the way to the end of the timeline and make it rotate, let's say twice. So that means over this whole space, it'll rotate twice. And you'll notice that this is why, if you see this little triangle here and these edges, that's why we made our canvas bigger at the beginning. And what we want to do is we want to do this for each layer. So if we'll do another one, paper 2, it'll retain all the settings from the last one. Drop in paper 2, press R to bring up rotation. Make sure we're at the start of our timeline, press keyframe. And we want them all to rotate at different speeds just to create more of a vortex, I guess. So the first one we rotated twice. Let's rotate this one once, which means it'll only rotate once over this 15 seconds. And we're going to do this for every single clip. Just make sure that we change up the amount of rotation. I'm not going to make mine rotate more than 4 times, and just randomly choose your rotation. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, there we go. We've now put all of our animation into their own individual compositions, and we're ready to get started. If you have a look at any of your timelines, they should all be rotating at different speeds. So let's create our main timeline that they're all going to go in. So we'll call this main, and the width can be 1080 by 1080, which is our original dimensions, and press OK. And what we'll do is we'll grab all of these paper layers, drop them in here, and you'll start to see pretty quickly as you move here along your timeline that they're all rotating, and it's really coming to life. One of the things I did in my animation, in my artwork, was use a little man, which I had just sitting on one of these. So I'm going to drop him in. You can find a little guy, I'm sure, somewhere online, and I'll just put him on this little purple one to the side. And to make sure that that purple one doesn't rotate, we'll just find that in our compositions on the left here. This should be the one. We'll turn off the rotation and come back to our main timeline. And there we have it. That one's staying still, and you're ready to render. Well, now that you've rendered your clip, you should have something that looks a little like this. And it was just that easy. I mean, this looks a whole lot better when you're posting to, say, social media or sharing your art with a friend, that it's got life to it. And so if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of these clips, please leave a like and a comment below. It really encourages me to do more of these. I'd love to create a series if there's enough interest, and we'll be creating more art soon. Keep animating, keep creating, and I'll see you soon.
Guys, we have finished yet another incredible tutorial. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, remember to keep it chill.